this is not a good day for the LGBTQ plus community globally, but more specifically in Japan. So Japan just announced that they are going to uphold their current law of not recognizing same-sex marriage. So they said that banning same-sex marriage is not unconstitutional. Okay, so there's a lot of negation in that. Let me make it clear. Banning same-sex marriage is constitutional. That's what they're saying. They're not doing anything wrong. And they said that according to their law stated that marriage is a mutual consent between both sexes. So if you drill it down, there are several factors. Number one, they are recognizing only two sexes, woman and man. Okay, so if those two sexes are not present, then it's not a marriage. Now, a lot of people are going to argue, but then a transsexual woman or a transsexual man is a man. Transsexual woman is a woman, but not from their point of view. So for them, if you're not a biological woman, then you're not a woman. And in their law, it has to be a woman. Marriage has to be a woman and a man. Okay, so that's their defense that they are offering. Now, I think last year, however, they did recognize same-sex partnership. So if you're same-sex and you want to establish a partnership, you can register that in the local government. You don't have to have a ceremony, just register that. And you will enjoy some benefits that couples actually, like legal couples actually enjoy, like visiting your partner when they're in the hospital, making some medical decisions, living in the same household, and other things. And they can actually raise a child as well. Now, a lot of people, but it is not recognized as a marriage. Now, a lot of people are wondering how come Japan holds their ground when it comes to same-sex marriage. And they're wondering why other countries are not intervening and not forcing Japan to recognize LGBTQ plus rights. So I did some digging and did some research. So these are not just my opinion. These are some things being expressed by different publications in Japan and experts and stuff. Okay, so number one is cultural, basically. Japan has a very strong cultural foundation, and their history plays a lot in how they run their current government and how they run their current society. And traditionally, in Japan, there are two sexes, woman and man, and that the whole foundation of their society is actually grounded on that, because when you go and get married, the whole point is for you to have children. Have children, and then you raise a better generation. That's the whole point. So, and for the longest time, the Western society is also grounded in that a family is supposed to be centered on the child, not on the couple. So the disintegration of that idea started when a marriage became about two people who love each other instead of two people raising a child. Hope I made sense. Okay, so that's the most important reason why Japan refuses to budge when it comes to same-sex marriage. Next is that a lot of the argument that LGBTQ plus communities are offering are actually wrong. So one of the arguments they're saying is that if Japan refuses to recognize same-sex marriage, they are going to be in an economic disadvantage on a macro level. Okay, so they're saying Japan will be at a disadvantage economically on a macro level. Macro level meaning higher level. So this is international trade, international business, global supply chains, trade agreements, taxes and stuff like that, tariffs and taxes and stuff. So, which is really wrong. There has never been a country that has been sanctioned by the international community, by other countries, just because they refuse to institute a law in their own country. Okay, so that has never happened because they recognize the sovereignty of a country within their own country. What does that mean? They recognize that that's your house, Japan, that's your turf, that's your house, and you run it the way that you want. The only time a sanction is put in place, especially economic sanction, is if the international community is getting affected. And for them, you not allowing two people to get married is your business. It has nothing to do with US laws and US economy. For as long as you're trading me the goods that I need, I'm giving you the goods that you want, and we're all good and peachy. So it has no effect. Japan's refusal to allow same-sex marriage has no macroeconomic effect. I hope that's clear. So if you take it further, Russia, the only time they were sanctioned for all their bullying and all their human rights violation, the only time that they were sanctioned was when they bombed Ukraine. Okay, and that sanction happened because another country has already been affected. And as you would know, not every country actually participated in the sanction. Number one, not every country gave assistance to Ukraine. Number two, and there are still a lot of questions on how Russia may be allowed to continue doing international trade. It's just that they'll be doing it another way, but that's another story. So the point is that the only time Russia has been sanctioned is when they did something that affected another country. Okay. Next is microeconomic levels. So the LGBTQ plus community in Japan tells the Japanese government that that people are going to stop supporting Japanese products if they don't recognize LGBTQ plus rights, which is not true. At the end of the day, people are going to buy the product that fits their need and their budget. And Japanese products are damn good and they're damn cheap. So cars is the number one example. Toyota cars remains to be the best-selling cars globally because they're cheap, they run well, they run forever. Why am I going to buy anything else? If I'm a billionaire, then maybe I'll buy something else. But if I'm a regular, ordinary employee, and that's the majority of people, then you're going to just buy the things that is of the best quality that you can afford. Next is social media and media pressure. So as you know, social media played and is playing a huge part in LGBTQ plus rights fight towards equality. And so a lot of the support is really actually coming via social media. And it's just hard to gauge the truth behind social media trends. Decision makers are aware that social media actually does not represent the majority, does not represent the truth at all. Twitter themselves admitted that a lot of their accounts are actually bots and bots. And so that's why Elon Musk is actually stalling their agreement, because he wants to know specifically how much of the trends are being manipulated by bot accounts. And the same thing is true for YouTube. A lot of the views are actually generated by a lot of the views are actually duplicate, coming from the same source. They're duplicate views. Last is countries with a strong identity, strong cultural identity. You can't pressure them into changing something that will affect that identity. So Russia, Japan, China, all of these countries have a very strong cultural identity. Using frivolous claims about macroeconomic effects, that's not going to work on them, because they know where their economy is. That's number one. And second, they don't want to do anything that will affect how they perceive themselves, that will alter their culture or their identity. So based on all of these things that I've read, people that I've read about or watched, they're saying that the LGBTQA plus community in Japan would need to do something else if they want to persuade the government into actually recognizing their rights. None of them actually offered an advice or offered a suggestion, because from their point of view, they also don't know what that is. What is it that we can give the government that will convince them that instituting a law that will potentially alter their culture, the culture that they love so much? What is it that you can give them that will convince them to change the law that can alter their culture? They don't know, and they're the experts, so I also don't know. But one thing is for sure, this is not a good day for the LGBTQ+ community in Japan.